I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This One's Wife. The Sussex Culture War. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There are many people who simply do not care about This One's Wife and Prince Harry. They know who they are, they understand what they represent, but they have no interest in them. They find them vapid, uninteresting individuals. This is demonstrated often in some of the more heavyweight news publications where below the line readers protest in relation to articles about the gruesome twosome. This is not news. Please stop writing about these two. We are not interested. Notwithstanding the substantial body of individuals who have no interest in Huggy and Druggy, there still remains a buoyant number of individuals who are invested in them and find them a divisive couple. On the one hand, we have the Sugars, who have a complete inability to recognize that this is a narcissist and her accomplice that are engaging in grifting exercises, demonstrating self-entitlement, a lack of accountability, a continued victim mentality. The Sugars are incapable of understanding the evidence that supports this, and as we know, regularly squawk out the same mantras of, you don't know them, you're just jealous, when they mean envious, you wanted to marry Harry, very strange observation, and you're racist, and others besides. Not only do they exhibit a slavish devotion to the support of particularly This One's Wife, presumably their own shortcomings ameliorated by pinning their hopes on her being some kind of representative of theirs, whereas she wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire, they also spend their time attacking members of the royal family, particularly William and Catherine. Often their behaviour is entirely reprehensible, propagating inaccuracies, sharing disinformation, and hunting down individuals that oppose them, seeking to dox them. There is, on the other side, those who are anti-Sussex, individuals who are annoyed by behaviour that was exhibited, for instance, towards the late Queen. Others find the grifting victim mentality of the gruesome twosome difficult to swallow. Others recognise her narcissism and find her behaviour perplexing, although they've started to understand more about why she does as she does, but they simply do not like it. There are others who find the whole shit show entertaining, that provides them with a distraction from the world at large as they opine about what the latest activity might mean, that they theorise about where they might go to next, what will happen next, what does this piece of information mean, that they are waiting to see the downfall of them. Others live on in hope of the great reveal that will suddenly cause their world to implode. Then there are others who reach a level of what could be described as derangement, that seem unhealthily preoccupied by analysing each and everything that the Sussexes do, coming out with wild theories as to what they are and what they represent, scrutinising each piece of information and finding things that really don't add up, but mulling it over and preoccupying with the information to come up with more and more outlandish theories. It is safe to say that for many there is a position of being black and white with them, that their supporters can see that they can do no wrong, and that their opponents can see that they can do no right. But there is an interesting observation provided by Zoe Williams in The Guardian. She writes, "It may have been straight after Megxit, when This One's Wife and Harry decided to step back from the royal family in 2020, or it may have been a year later, when Oprah Winfrey stepped in to clear things up in a long interview that made everyone in and around the history of British royalty, basically all of us, everywhere, sound quite bad. Either way, it was a while ago. that I decided to have no further view on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, or were we supposed to change their address once they'd left, Commoner and Commoness of Sussex? Not my concern, as I said. No further view. Called upon to pick a side in any given culture war, you always have to gloss over certain complexities and contradictions, and no one, nowhere more so than in this situation. Inconveniently, it's possible for all the things to be true. It is possible that there are racists in the royal household, and for this one's wife to be rude to members of it. It is possible that Prince William bullied Prince Harry remorselessly, while Harry himself, in a different context, a Spotify production meeting, for instance, is the difficult one. It's possible, indeed, observable, that the British tabloid media waged a crusade against this one's wife, attacking everything from her comportment while pregnant, according to the Express, she used sneaky tricks to flaunt her bump, to the implications of her vegetable preferences. The Daily Mail memorably associated her, via the avocado, with human rights abuses, drought and murder. It's true that much of the Red Top's coverage was racist and plausible, as this one's wife and Harry argue convincingly in their 2022 Netflix documentary that this unleashed a tide of white supremacist bile on social media. Yet it's also true that Harry and this one's wife occupy a difficult position, dependent on media attention, and yet disgusted by it. They are questing after a status in which they're talked about all the time, but they get to control what's said. The royals, in aggregate, discovered this was not possible at least 500 years ago. Celebrities, meanwhile, have less riding on their innate superiority and the dignity of their office, so seem to cope better with an unruly narrative. It's been a heady cocktail, in other words, the marriage of royalty and small-screen stardom, and the Sussexes have sometimes come out of it looking a bit askew, words such as entitled and attention-seeking clustering around them as pejoratives, when that is the kernel of their existence. Royalty is defined by entitlement. Celebrity is the logical endpoint of attention. It could not exist if nobody sought it. Nevertheless, the hostility meted out to them has been wildly disproportionate and ideologically driven, if we can call amorphous anti-wokery anything as grand as an ideology. All the criticisms and smears launched against everyone, by anonymous and named sources everywhere, have a plausible ring. And the safest thing in such a circumstance is to stay out of it, but the muddier it looks, the more people are driven to investigate. Last week, Vanity Fair landed a new chapter of truth behind the facade, in which we learn that the couple are nearly divorced but still desperately in love, that they are terrible neighbours while at the same time, per Sharon Stone, brilliant neighbours, that they are tricky characters to work with, but from another angle it doesn't sound like trickiness. One former Spotify employee claimed that they didn't do what celebrities do on podcasts, which is turn on the mic and talk. They wanted a big theme that would explain the world, but they had no ideas. It's actually fair enough. You don't have to be Nietzsche before you can say, I'd rather not just drone on about my breakfast routine. The fact is, media demonization creates the demon it needs. It spurs the defensiveness that's obnoxious to behold. It summons the witnesses it needs, whose supply, since they're anonymous, is infinite. It is the attention economy that it then castigates people for trying to monetize. It's kind of impressive, magical even, a mill that can create its own grist, but it doesn't seem very fair. Now, such an article is not a surprise appearing in The Guardian, but one of the main thrusts of this is to say that in a way, the Sussexes can be both things at once, that they could be the victims of racist commentary, whilst this one's wife is someone who bullies. It creates a culture war. For those that have an interest, it causes them to pick a side. And invariably, for many, it is a case of, I support them, therefore I see no fault on their part, or I'm against them, and I see problematic behaviour with everything that they do. But are there those that see a more balanced, more nuanced approach in relation to the way that they are, that they can be both victims whilst also being provocative and problem-making? It is best summed up in a sense where the writer stated that they are dependent on media attention and yet disgusted by it. They're questing after a status in which they're talked about all of the time, but they get to control what's said. That's certainly the hypocritical and contradictory stance that would be understood to take place with a narcissist. Where do you stand in this culture war? I know many of you on this channel are against them, and quite understandably so, because of their reprehensible behaviours and all the various aspects of this one's wife's narcissism that I've identified for you. But do you see any redeeming factors in the Sussexes? Do you see any degree of balance? Or is it the case that you see that whatever they do, they deserve condemnation, and that is entirely fair? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'll be interested to see what your positions are. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.